Hi, everyone. You are listening to Play Now, Play for Life, a podcast for music educators. I'm your host, Darren Hansen. I'm a former band and general music teacher of 29 years and now a part of the West Music team. And in these episodes, we sit down and chat with experts in music education to learn about some of their tricks of the trade and other topics of music education. And today we have got a good one because we have Leon Kuehner here, who is currently the executive director for the Iowa Alliance of Arts Education, although he has a very big background in music education, and we'll get to that in a minute. So we are glad to have him here. We're going to talk about the Alliance, and we're going to talk specifically too about mentoring programs, which are so important nowadays, and advocacy with our districts and things with teachers. So we just want to welcome Leon to our podcast.
Well, excellent. I'm looking forward to having a nice conversation, Aaron, and I think we're going to have a good time.
I think we are too. You know, I was thinking about this last night, looking forward to this particular podcast. And there are things about you, because I've known you now for quite a while. And the things I always love, first, I know if I'm going to be around Leon, number one, we're going to have fun, but we're also going to be serious about our topics. I mean, we're serious about music education, but we
Right.
can also be fun people in that. And then I always remember whenever we've been involved in a meeting together or some kind of thing, I'm like, I'm going to learn something today. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to learn something today. And just the energy, I've always thought this about you, but just the energy and the passion that you bring to our state, to not just music education, fine arts education. And I've always just appreciated all those things. So I've been looking forward to this podcast because I was like, this is going to be a great one.
Well, thanks so much. And like the feeling is mutual. I think for me, one of my favorite things I get to do is go around and just talking to teachers. And traveling around the state, getting to talk to teachers, of all, like, beginning teachers, experienced teachers, everyone. And that's really you draw, I think, energy and I think commitment and drive from talking to them. So anyway, we're gonna have a good time.
You do. And with that kind of a position, I mean, I think your position that's so interesting because you get to go into a lot of classrooms. And
Right.
so you see a lot of teaching styles and a lot of different ways to do things in the classroom. I think that would be a really interesting position to be in.
Yeah, it's interesting because I I was I was a band director for like 35 years, 36 years, 35 or 36 years. And then the last 12, 13 years, uh, I teach for the North Iowa Area Community College. I taught at Wartburg for a couple years. I do music student teachers, a class for them for University of Iowa, and then also co-administrator of the mentoring program. So, and then doing lots of clinics for schools. And so really, I'm in a lot of different classrooms across the state doing different things, but also get a chance to work with. I think my youngest student is 6 and my oldest is 72. Uh, so you have a wide range. And the thing I think that's really important about that is it really informs you of what's going on. That you may be watching a beginning teacher, you may be watching an experienced teacher, you're in schools, you're talking to classroom teachers, but also I think with my work with the Alliance, it really helps inform when we're talking to decision makers and legislators. Because I can say when I'm talking to a legislator or an organization, no, I've been to the school. I've been to the school in your district. I've talked to these teachers, and this is what's happening. So everything kind of informs everything else.
Well, and that's so important because you have that interactive perspective. I was in the classroom. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. I mean, you're right there, which is what we need because anybody can give information when they're not there and they don't really know. But it's like,
Right.
no, I was there.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, since with my work with the Alliance, I go to all the professional organization meetings, conferences as well. And so, you go to Educational Theater Association, you go to Iowa Thespians, you go to art educators, you go to Iowa music educators, Iowa choral directors, Iowa band directors, Iowa string teachers. I mean, all of them. And so you get a chance to talk to all the teachers, but also you get to talk to students as well. And so like we just had finished our advocacy day in January at the state capitol, and our really great advocates are our high school and college students, you know, because you connect with them, and I say, "Would you come and talk?" And all I want you to do is talk about your experience. Talk about the experience that you have every day in your classroom as far as the importance of arts education, and it's very, very powerful.
Well, I loved that day. We're gonna talk about that more. Um, can I back up for a second because I didn't quite ask the question, but just a little bit about your personal background, your music journey. You kind of
Sure.
just touched on it a little bit, but when you got started with music, just a little bit
Yeah,
more.
it was kinda interesting, like I said, I was a band director, but I didn't play in a band till I was a freshman in high school.
Oh,
I
wow.
Yeah, I started trumpet lessons in 7th grade. The school I went to didn't have a band, and so I had played piano since I was, like, a little kid, and then in 7th and 8th I started trumpet lessons in 7th grade, and then didn't play in a band till I was a freshman. Uh, but the minute I played in a band, I thought, "This is it. This is what I wanna do." I was in choir for 4 years. I did speech, I did some drama things, but I knew that I wanted to be a band director. So I went to University of Northern Iowa for both my bachelor's and master's degrees. I taught 3 years at that time, it was Britt Community Schools, now it's West Hancock, and then I taught 30 some years at Hampton and Hampton Dumont. And then, after that, then I became well, I had been on the Alliance board, and then, I about 10 years ago, then I became executive director of the Alliance. I had been co-administrator of the mentoring program since it started in 2006. Uh, and so then since then, taught, like I said, music education. I did classes for our community college in Mason City. So I did music theory, oral skills, music history, applied trumpet, applied piano, applied French horn, whatever they needed. I did a 2-year kind of fill in at Wartburg College uh, during a sabbatical leave, and did for 2 years there, did wind ensemble and symphonic band. And the last 7 or 8 years, also did the music teaching seminar class for the University of Iowa. So working with music teachers that are out in the field right now, meeting with them once a week, just talking about really just practical issues, communication, rehearsal planning, classroom management, interview skills, all these really practical things. So it really is kind of a wide ranging area of, I mean, just a lot of experiences, like I said, and everything we do informs everything else. So I think it really helps you keep attuned to what is going on.
Yeah, I would agree. I forgot that you did a little stint at Wartburg.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, Dr. Hancock had a sabbatical, and then it ended up
Okay.
that was 2020. So we went through the
Okay.
COVID experience. So it was 2020 to 2022. So I did band there for 2 years, and they were kind of in a transition, so I was just kinda to help fill in, while they were, transitioning. So and that was really interesting too, just to go in and see getting to work with college students in a band program, but also a lot of them were obviously music education people as well. So, that was very, very interesting. I had great students there too, so it's been fun.
Well, and what an interesting time to go in and do that
Yes. Yeah,
on top of
yeah,
everything else.
yeah, and I think too, that's the thing that was really, especially it helped really inform you what COVID did to arts education in the state of Iowa because you lived it.
Yes.
And I was just talking with teachers last week, and it's really interesting. And they were going through and they were talking about their freshmen and sophomores were just kind of a little bit behind. And they said, yeah, these were the COVID classes, you know? And this is a nationwide thing. And it's interesting, like even like when we talk to legislators about that, we go in and we say, do you understand what this did to education? Or even like I was working with student teachers and they said, "No, I took conducting over Zoom." or I took techniques classes over Zoom, you know? And if that's what we did, you know? But again, it was one of those things that experience really helped you focus in on this is what the needs are because of just the situation we all live through. So,
Well, and I think the one thing, I mean, I don't think there was anything positive from COVID, but for the fine arts teachers, so many of us have kids for multiple years.
yes,
I think we were much easier to adapt going back in because we knew what had been lacking. I mean, we knew exactly where we had to pick up. Where, a third grade teacher not knowing those kids and first and second grade at all and knowing what got done, they had a lot more struggle, I think, than
right.
we did. Because I think we were just like, okay, this is where we're at. It's not where I want to be right now, but we're
Exactly
gonna
right.
get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting too, just going through in some ways, the younger teachers, it was almost easier. They had no preconceived
Yes.
notions. Like, for ones who their first year of teaching was, basically the Zoom COVID year, but they had no preconceived notions, "I need to be here." And so they just kinda muddled through it. It's like, and in some ways, it was almost easier because they could say, "Okay," like you said, it's not the student's fault, we just have to take them where they are. So, yeah, it's been an interesting times, but it was, yeah, it really helped, though, inform where we need to go educationally.
Yes. So with the alliance, you didn't start out with the alliance right away as the executive director, did you? Or did you step
No,
right
no,
into I know you've been with the alliance for many, many years.
yeah,
So I
I
mean, you
started on the executive board, in the late '90s. I was president of Iowa Bandmasters Association, and then I was asked, to be on the board. So I served on the board, at that time, and I remember the first board meeting I went to and observed, it was in Des Moines, and I was so impressed with the organization. Uh, because you sat around and of course you have music teachers, art teachers, drama teachers, everybody from all these different artistic disciplines. And it was so interesting sitting down, observing the meeting, and you could not tell who taught what because people had a very global perspective on the importance of arts education. And a thing about the Alliance was breaking down the silos between the artistic areas, before the fine arts areas, and realizing, no, we're doing what is important benefit for all students rather than for art or drama or music or whatever. And that's impressed me so much. These people were very, very passionate. And I mean, that was kind of the whole concept of the alliance anyway, is we were breaking down the silos in between so that arts education speaks with a unified voice. And to me, that was just super, super exciting. And they had some really, really strong people who really lived that philosophy. And I was just super, super impressed with that. So,
I love that about the organization, that it's an umbrella organization. It's all of fine arts. And, it goes back to the old saying that good teaching is good teaching. It
yes,
doesn't matter if you're a dance teacher or an art teacher or drama. I mean, we're all like you said, we all have the same overall goals and
right.
expectations and things.
Yeah, and it works. It's such a strong, it's such a unified voice, especially like when we go there's certain things the Alliance doesn't have to do because we have very strong fine arts organizations in the state. We have very that do excellent professional development, do great things for the individual members, but the Alliance is the one that connects them all together and which helps us speak with a unified voice and really it's a more powerful thing than us all individually. And so how the alliance is structured was just done very wisely by the board. In fact, it's really interesting. I have meetings coming up. South Dakota is looking at starting an arts education alliance. They have like an arts and culture alliance, but not an arts education alliance. And the alliance director from South Dakota and I have been friends for probably like 10 years now, ever since I started. And so I've been meeting with them. And then this summer, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 days with them and just sitting down and saying, all right, Here's how we did it. This is what we've learned. This works. This doesn't work. You know, because again, South Dakota being very rural, even more rural than Iowa. So that's one of those things. I think the concept of it, I think, has served us really well.
Would you say you're answering all kinds of questions all at once? I'm bouncing back and forth. Would you say Iowa is one of the first states that established an organization like this, or
That I don't know. It's interesting. A lot of states, because with my position with the alliance, I work. We work with national organizations as well. So, like Americans for the Arts, we had a group of alliance directors that met. Also, one with the Creative States Coalition. Also, in part, meet with Arts Midwest, which is another group of like 10 Midwestern states. Every state's structured differently. A lot of them, their arts and culture and their arts education advocacy group are the same people. It's all under one. Some have separate, you know. Like in Iowa, we have like the Iowa Cultural Coalition, which we helped resurrect, which advocates for arts and culture in the state, And that's the one thing we looked at is uh, we thought it was best that we those be two separate organizations, which worked best for our state, because of what the way things already were set up. Now, I have a friend like from Alabama, and theirs is all together. She does both. Others, it just depends on the state. In Iowa, I think the thing that helps us work is the communication between all of our groups. And I think that's the thing that's super, super important is that with the Alliance, in addition to all our arts education groups, that are all members of our board, how it's structured, so we have all the professional arts education groups, but we also have contacts with the Iowa Department of Education. So their fine arts consultant sits on our board. I work closely with the Iowa Arts Council and their arts learning manager. We also have like the Iowa Association of School Boards. We're having someone from the School Administrators of Iowa on our board as well. And the fact that we all sit down and communicate with each other, I think is something that's really, really strong. Is that, I mean, I can just pick up the phone and with the Alliance, we're talking to the Department of Education, or we're talking to the Iowa Arts Council, or like even like this morning, we're working on something with there's some legislation that's going through the Iowa legislature right now that we needed guidance on. So one of my board members is the former national president of the Educational Theaters Association. So I just called Helen and said, Helen, here's what I need. We want to speak with a unified voice with the Educational Theater Association nationally. And so it's one of those things within a little bit, we're able to connect all these things. And the communication thing is key because where we get in trouble is if we don't communicate. And then you're getting mixed messages. And so it's a balancing act. I remember I had a friend that came to one of their first alliance meetings, and you have all these very high-powered, passionate people sitting around a table at once, and I was like, and he said, "This is pretty chaotic," and but it was like, well, it's like when you go into a classroom and you think it's noisy, but no, it's creative, and
yes?
going in and yes, you've been there, Aaron,
Yeah.
and it's not like people sitting there very quietly. It's just people and all these ideas are all going around, and it's like it's very and you just got to channel that. So it's really interesting. But I think that's where the energy of the group comes is the vitality and the buy-in of each of the members.
Well, and I think that your organization, I mean, I'm a member too, but it's so important to have that unified voice because when you go in as a unified voice, that's much more powerful than just, oh, the choral people came in about this or whoever. General music teachers are looking at this, but when you're coming in as fine arts all together, that's pretty
Right. Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, because there's sometimes, obviously, you will advocate for a single, like something instrumental or art or whatever. Like if you're talking about a licensure thing or some things that would affect theater more than the others, of course you will do that. But on the other hand, when we're talking about just the importance of arts education in our schools, And you can go in and say, no, our organization represents thousands of teachers in the state of Iowa. And then you also have, your other stakeholders. You have parents, you have parent groups, you have business people, you have all those as well. But you understand that, like you said, we're speaking with that unified voice. It really, you get more bang for your buck rather than I'm here, by myself, you know.
Let me backtrack on one more question because I'm nerdy and I always have to know these things. But back to the alliance, the start of it, was it just kind of started by one person, or how did that kind of come about?
Okay, it started during the farm crisis in the 80s. And so
Oh,
we had
wow.
some
I didn't realize it was that.
yeah.
Okay.
So it was during the farm crisis in the 80s. They were obviously schools were in trouble. There were a lot of funding cuts to schools. And so they were really cutting fine arts programs in the state. And we had some very visionary leaders back then, and Steve West being one of them. I remember Steve West was like one of the founding members of the Alliance.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that either.
oh yeah, no, Steve
See,
West
I'm
and
learning.
yeah, Steve West and West Music was an integral part of the founding of the Alliance. Yeah, he was in it from the very beginning. So Steve West, it was Larry Branstetter, who was uh, a theater teacher from Red Oak. We had was Joe Christensen at that time was president of the Iowa Bandmasters. He was the band director at Iowa State. Mark Lehman was with president of the Iowa Choral Directors. We had people from Art Educators of Iowa, and it was really interesting. They realized that we will with again breaking down those silos and speaking with a unified voice. I mean, West Music really was without West Music, the Alliance wouldn't have existed. When we first got going, we a lot. In fact, West Music did a lot of our the paperwork, did a lot of just funding things for the Alliance. Uh, in fact, they used to go and like for the when we got the mentor program, we used to all the finances, like checking all of that was done through West Music. Robin Walenta was also on our board. Robin served the full 9 years on the board, and so seriously, without West Music, I really don't think the Alliance would have survived. Because when it first started out, you had to have, it literally started from zero. And, so we've been around now since the middle, I think it was 1986. So we're getting there. So yeah, we have so it's great to be on a West Music podcast because without West Music, I wouldn't be here today.
That I just learned a ton. I didn't know any of that. Well, I didn't join till I was a new teacher by that time, but probably the mid 90s.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? I did a little research on your website. What would you say would be just the general vision and mission of the Alliance?
Yeah. Okay. Like our this is just our mission statement. It is mission of the Alliance is to increase awareness, recognition, and support of policies, practices, and partnerships that advance quality arts education for all Iowans. And really, what we're looking at, and that can mean the awareness thing is just an ongoing. I mean, that's one thing we will do. I mean, every year when we go to the legislature, we say, we've ever since COVID, we just adopted the theme, arts education is essential. This is not an extra. This is not anything. No, this is essential as for what a well-rounded education is. We also look at some policies, practices, and partnerships. Now, policies can be things like at the state level, it can be at the local level, but things that are going to support quality arts education. And the other thing, too, again, is the partnerships. That is super, super important. Like I talked about, the fact that just when we look at the structure of our executive and our advisory board, we try to be as far reaching as possible. On our executive board, we have representatives of drama, of strings, of art, music, speech, all of those. On our advisory board, we have like Thad Driscoll, the executive director of the Iowa High School Music Association, like Stacy Hansen, executive director of the Iowa High School Speech Association. We have people from the Iowa Association of School Music Dealers, but also the Iowa Arts Council, Iowa Dance, uh, Iowa Department of Education, as well as all the professional arts education organizations in the state. And really what it does is it helps us inform what is exactly going on. It's kinda like when I talked earlier, the fact that I'm in classrooms really, really helps, but when you have a wide board like that, like with our advisory board, we meet with them twice a year, and that's exactly to see, what do you see are the greatest needs? What do you see are the issues that are facing? What are you hearing from your organizations? You know? Um, and so I think that is just how the board is structured, I think really helps us stay current and really helps us stay going through as far as really what is exactly going on because we're everybody's in the classroom. I think being in the trenches is super, super important.
Oh, it's very important. It's very important. When the alliance kind of started really gaining steam, if I'm remembering this right, as I was going through my career, was advocacy a really big initial kind
Yes.
of what do I want to say? Promotion, or I mean,
Yeah, it was advocacy, and we did a lot of programming. We did a lot of professional development, for teachers. Uh, the thing that we would do is we would partner with the Iowa Department of Education, going through that. And so, like, we've worked closely with the fine arts consultant, at the Department of Education, because really what it did is it gave us immediate validation as far as can we provide professional development for your teachers? And of course, is we partner with the Department of Education to do that. The other thing that I was passionate about is when I was in the classroom, it was always very frustrating for me when we had teacher professional development days and we would have professional development and none of it would ever apply to the fine arts teachers. And I
yeah.
know I hear that time and time again. And so that was a thing, that was so we as we looked at it, thought, "Okay, let's have fine arts teachers develop professional development opportunities for fine arts teachers." And so that's been a thing that has been really, I think, super important that we did a lot of work on, and we continue to do that. Like, we have our Fine Arts Education Summit, coming up. We do that every 2 years. And so we're part of the Fine Arts Advisory Team for the Department of Education. So right now, that will be on June 17th. It's coming up and at DMAC in Ankeny. And registration for that's going to open up on April 1st. So we have a whole day of professional development designed by Iowa teachers that we can provide. And this is a collaboration between the Iowa Department of Education, the Iowa Arts Council, and the Alliance. And that literally came about, again, when we passed fine art standards, is we were sitting at Scenic Root Bakery in Des Moines. I just drove down. We had a new fine arts consultant, and we just sat down and with also with Jenny Knabel, with the Iowa Arts Council, and they said, "What do you see as the thing that teachers need?" And I said, "It's professional development," because we had adopted new standards. Everyone was, "What's going
Right.
on? What are these all
And
about?"
in their area. So it makes
Correct.
sense.
Yes. And so literally just sitting around that and having coffee, we said, "This is what we need." And then some said, "Well, I can provide funding for this, and I can provide funding for this, and we can do this." And by the three organizations collaborating together, it came up, now we do it every 2 years. And so, it was just again, it was that collaboration and that communication that made the difference. And the same thing like with our mentoring program, that came about in 2006. Same thing. And that literally was, sitting down with a fine arts consultant and her boss from the Iowa Department of Education. They said, "What do you see as the need for education in the state of Iowa?" And we said, "It's mentoring." And literally, that's how it started. And then we got a block grant, and then Liz Fritz and I and Roseanne Malik, who was the DE consultant at that time, we sat down and literally around a kitchen table in Decorah, Iowa, we sat down and said, "All right, let's design something And then it just kind of all worked from there, you know?
I think in Iowa, kitchen table meetings work very well.
Yes.
A lot of
You know,
things get hashed out around a kitchen table. Like, you
you
get
know,
the
I
right people, and we figured this out.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, it's lots of times it's the kitchen table or the parking lot conversation where the real work
Yes.
gets done. You know, you have the meeting and then all of a sudden you're walking to the car and then you have the parking lot. It's like going to Camp David, you know? You go, and you sit around and then all of a sudden people have time to process and they go, "Well, what do you think about this? Oh, I could do this."
Right.
And that's yeah.
Or
So
I tend to be one of those people that I might have a middle of the night light bulb, and then I always have a notepad sitting by my bed. I'm like, "Well, this might be a good idea. I'm just gonna write that down so I remember
yeah.
it tomorrow morning," and then throw it out. Well, before we go on to mentoring, just back to advocacy for one more minute, I think administrators, at least in my opinion, I think they're getting smarter. Because I think years ago, for fine arts teachers, with PD, they didn't know, or they didn't know where to send us or what to
Right.
do. So I think, like you said, for us to come kind of grassroots, what about this? This would make a lot of sense for our team. Oh, yeah, okay, that kind of sounds like a good idea, and that's in your area. And I know a lot of districts nowadays are even sending teachers out. They're giving them the option on a PD day. Do you want to go visit another district, another music person, another art person? And I mean, that's so valuable for us more than sitting in a math scores reading
Yeah.
meeting. It's I think they're getting smarter.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of right, I think a lot of it is just it's an awareness thing that you keep sending, it's all out there. I think now, like with the transitioning of what AEAs provide, we're in a transition period right now. We went through this whole phase where we worked through the AEAs. We would go around to all of them. We had teams of teachers, of fine arts teachers that would do professional development. We're in a transition phase right now, and we've had that discussion a lot. With the alliance and our executive advisory board of what can we do to fulfill the needs of the teachers. Uh, and so it's like our fine arts education summit this summer is like that's a 1 day thing, but that's one of the things we're looking at to the future is what can we provide for teachers? Is that's current, that's something they can use. And so, yeah, it's going to be an ongoing thing. But I think the professional development aspect, I think, is super, super important uh, because it's something all teachers need. And I think and I'm just a firm believer, you have fine arts teachers develop professional development for fine arts teachers. You gotta have people from the trenches do it because they're the ones that know what's going on.
Well, yeah, I 100% agree with that. Quick question about the summit. Is that open to any fine arts teachers? Do you have to be a member of the alliance? I think I've gone once or twice. I remember going down to Des Moines.
No, it's open to anybody. We will it's like we have obviously it's we cater, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is to like the classroom teacher, but we also have like teaching artists that will come. We're due also having a STEAM thread through this as well. So we have somebody from the STEM Council are coming, and they are doing a presentation on some STEAM type related activities that are possible through the STEM Council. Uh, we get some performing artists. The other thing that we're trying to get is like curriculum directors, some administrators, all of that, so that they can see we have, I think it's 24 breakout sessions, which is kind of fun. And we have it set up so that we have a thread for each fine arts area. So some of them are going to be like general knowledge, but some others, like if I am a general music teacher, here's a thread I can follow. If I'm a high school drama teacher, here's what I can follow. If I'm an ensemble, a band choir orchestra, here is a thread. That's something we very specifically look at so that for the day, there's specific sessions that will apply, but also there are general interest sessions as well. So what we're doing this year, instead of having a keynote, we are decided we're having Iowa teachers be the keynote. It's like a round robin interview session. I'm really excited about it. And we have 5 exemplary teachers of 5 art forms who are going to interview each other. And so they're going to start out and so it's gonna go through we're gonna talk about the artistic processes and how we are incorporating them into our dance class, our art class, our music class, our drama class, our speech class, all of those, but they're gonna interview each other. So, it's really gonna be exciting, and the thing I like about it is it's Iowa teachers talking to Iowa teachers. So it's not like, okay, I'm from California and this worked in when I taught in San Francisco or whatever. No, I teach in Waving Grass, Iowa, and this is what works in Waving Grass. You can do it too. Uh, I just find that very exciting, and it's going to be fun. I just really looking forward to it. So we'll be sending stuff out. It'll be on the Alliance website. It'll be the Iowa Arts Council website, but we have pre-registration starting on April 1st.
Well, I would love to attend again or whatever. I remember it. It's been a few years, but
It's fun.
uh, it is fun, and it's fun people, and it's those conversations, maybe they don't happen right during the session, but they happen on a break, and you end up talking with somebody and networking, and there's so much content there to collect. But okay, so let's go back to the mentor program. Would you like to just you already said how it kind of started. But would you like to just kind of talk about how that works and how
Sure.
it helps
Yeah.
new teachers or any teachers?
Sure. Yeah, okay, the mentor program started in 2006, and really how that ended up literally, again, we were sitting around a table, uh, and it was Roseanne Malik, who was the fine arts consultant at that time with the Department of Education, her boss, and at that time, I was just chair of the Iowa Bandmasters Association Mentor Committee, and then Liz Fritz was chair of it was a group called the Music Mentors of Iowa. And so we thought, okay, what are we going to do? First of all, we need to combine forces. It was the same thing, using the like kind of the model of the alliances rather than the band directors having something, the choir directors having something, the IMEA having something. We thought we need to expand this out to everyone. But we had a kind of it started out fairly small. We did block grants the first year and we gave for through the alliance and we like gave for example Iowa bandmasters, Iowa choral directors, whatever, all of them, here's some money to use to do maybe a session geared to first year teachers at your conference, just to kind of get the ball rolling, which then gave us a year. And so Liz Fritz and Roseanne Malik and I, like I said, we sat down and designed a program, had to come up with a budget, and so we did get funding, and we got it started. And so what we really had was 3 components of it. The first was the professional development component, which was providing, professional development specifically geared to the beginning teacher. And so we do a fall symposium for beginning teachers. We've recorded some podcasts for beginning teachers. So that was kind of professional development aspect. The second one was scholarships. We were we one of the things we felt was so important was to get your beginning teacher connected to their professional organization, because especially in Iowa, we've got a lot of rural teachers who are the only one of their area in their building or sometimes in their entire school. They could be K-12 music or they could be K-12 art, you know? And we thought it's super, super important to get them connected to their state professional organization. So we provide scholarships for that. And then the third was the mentoring assistance. So the Iowa choral directors had some mentoring and assistance. They were doing some really good things there. And at that time, Iowa Bandmasters had a group called the IBA Retired Directors, the IBARD group, which was an organization of retired teachers. And I was the mentor chair for IBA. And as we sat down and we were thinking, we thought, wait a minute, we've got a group of people here that have knowledge, and we got beginning teachers that need knowledge. Why don't we connect these two together? And the other thing that was so important was that the retired teachers have time. They can come during a school day. They can come into the classroom. And so this was about the same time that the state of Iowa was starting their mentor program. And so we worked with them to realize, no, this isn't to go through and like supplant what you're doing. Is to enhance what you're doing. Because what we will do is we will provide discipline specific mentoring. So, for example, like I live in Hampton, and we had a beginning band director there after I left, and her mentor teacher in the school was the English teacher, one of the best teachers in the school. So, as far as this is how I connect with students, this is how I build relationships, this is how I do classroom management, all of those things, which, like you said in the beginning, Aaron, good teaching is good teaching. I don't care if you're teaching, underwater basket weaving or the top orchestra. Good teaching is good. But what she really needed this was be discipline specific mentoring. And once we explained that and the fact that we were able to do this at no cost to the local school district, then we had it. So the first time at that this was during the Obama administration, and at that time there was money available for teacher quality. And the Iowa Department of Education had applied for a teacher quality grant. And what they needed as part of this grant application was an example of an existing mentoring program for beginning teachers in the state to use as a part of their application process. And so at that time, Roseanne Malik, who was the fine arts consultant, said, "Can we use the Alliance mentoring program as part of this application?" And I said, "Well, sure." So anyway, we were part of that, and then this was accepted. So for 8 years, we were funded by a federal grant. So we got anywhere from 50 to $75,000 a year to help run the mentoring program. And so as it kept going, we expanded out. So it was a matter of time. We had some money, we were able to expand. So right now, we're working with 7 organizations. We started small and kinda worked the kinks out, so right now we're working with 7 professional fine arts organizations. Uh, at the end of the Obama administration, we're in our 10th year now, at that time, we had the structure, we were growing, but we had no money. The federal grant was done, and so, at that time, that's about the same time that the Alliance was able to hire a lobbyist, and, our lobbyist was Larry Murphy. And so we sat down and he was intrigued by this whole idea. Before he was a lobbyist, he was a member of the legislature and he was in the appropriations committee and the education committee. So it was like an awesome combination. He knew how it worked and he knew the people to talk to. So we sat down and so Larry and we started meeting with legislators and you could tell they got it, especially legislators from rural schools because no, they have one choir director or they have one art teacher. We've got to save, we've got to help these people. So anyway, we went in with a dollar amount, and they came back with we went in for 100,000. They came back with zero, and so so that was
Time to
fun.
negotiate.
Yeah, and so we negotiated. So we ended up a meeting in the middle and they said, "We will give you 25,000 if you match it at 25,000." And so which got us to a $50,000 a year budget. So we said so that's what we agreed on. So that was 10 years ago. So the alliance has raised a quarter million dollars to go through and match this. And then the last few years now, we've gotten that raised to $50,000 from the legislature because as our program has grown, our needs have grown. So right now, what we've done is we've expanded. COVID was interesting because what happened when the schools shut down, there still was a great need for mentoring. And I remember I was going for a walk and I'm going, what are we going to do? And I thought, duh, Leon, this is stupid. Do virtual mentoring. Everything else is on Zoom and phone calls. We can do that by and so because before we only had in-person visits, and that was awesome. And so we did that during COVID, and then we kept it because it was so valuable. Because we compensate our mentors for in-person time, meals, mileage, hotel, and their time. And so we do this. We'll do the same for virtual mentoring. And sometimes a teacher doesn't need 3 hours or 4 hours. They need a half an hour, an hour. I need help here. What do you think? I just had a really bad day. What do I do? Or I need some assistance here. And that can be done, over Zoom. So we've expanded that. We've expanded the scholarship to $500 a year. We've expanded it to the first 2 years of teaching. We used to limit mentor visits. We've been able to have unlimited mentor visits right now. And what has helped that is when the schools basically shut down for a year, and in some places longer than that, we had carryover funds of contributions that of matching contributions that so we were able to expand that out. And so that has helped us. So like this past year, we had over I think it was 530 mentor visits in 56 counties last year. Uh,
Wow.
it's just the last 2 years, it's just gone through the roof. Uh, and that's been really, really cool. We've brought on the Iowa High School Speech Association as a participant, which is really great. So we have like Art Educators of Iowa, Iowa String Teachers, Iowa Music Educators, Iowa Choral Directors, Iowa Bandmasters, Iowa Thespians, and Iowa High School Speech Association. So we've really expanded that. So right now, every first and second year teacher can have unlimited virtual and in-person mentor visits. We provide free professional development, and we provide a $500 scholarship first and second year to pay their professional dues and attend professional conferences in the state of Iowa. It's been really interesting. Just this last September, we got a chance to talk about the mentoring program at the National Federation of High School Associations meeting in Chicago. So it would be like like Thad Driscoll, who is the head of IHSMA. It was like people of his stature or position from throughout the whole United States. And I got about 10 minutes to talk about the mentoring program. And that was interesting because we've talked to other states, but in fact, I just had a meeting yesterday with Music for All, people from Music for All, with Bob Morrison and his group with Quadrant Research, the National Federation of High School Associations. And so we're looking at using the Iowa model, or people talking about what we're doing in Iowa, and seeing and replicating it in other states. Also in that meeting, we had some teachers from Idaho, and they're at the very beginning of that. And so we made those connections just 2 days ago now. And so we're going to be we're going to be mentoring Idaho. Uh, about
Otherwise known as the other Iowa.
It's the other Iowa. I think it's yeah. And so, yeah, so it's been kind of interesting. But we've met with teachers from Missouri, Minnesota, Wisconsin, just neighboring Midwestern states, you know. So that's the thing that's been cool, is just going in, and we're still learning, we're still expanding, because it's been since 2006, but the needs of teachers are changing. And really, one of the big things right now we're looking at is teacher retention, because there's such a shortage of teachers in the state. Well, nationwide, but obviously for Iowa, we're looking at, because with that mentoring program, if we can get them through those first 2 years, then they get their permanent certificate. They have that provisional teaching license for 2 years. If we can get them through the first two, and the thing is, a lot of times that relationship that's established between the mentor teacher and the beginning teacher extends far beyond the 2 years. I mean, I'm still working with teachers I worked with 10 years ago, because you create that relationship. And so that's the thing that's super, super important. So I think people are kind of looking to Iowa to learn what we've learned, because we made mistakes. There's things we tried and it didn't work. The legislature, the thing that's been really cool with the legislature is we've been funded. We've got legislation passed 10 years in a row now to fund this program. And it didn't matter which political party was in power, because it doesn't make any difference. This is not a political issue. This is a kid issue. And this is the power of what we can do. And each year, I bring in, when we talk to legislators, we bring in beginning teachers. Because I can sit there, I says, you don't worry about, I will, so I talked and I will do all the boring stuff. I will do all the statistics. I said, this is what we've done. We've expanded this. We're in this many schools. We've helped this many teachers. We provided this. And then you just turn it loose and you let the beginning teacher said, can you tell your story? And it's just boom. Everything, it happens time and time again. Uh, the thing that was really interesting this year, and this was done on purpose, is that we had a band director who's now teaching choir as well, and a choir director who's now teaching band as well, you know? And we had a public school and one was a public school teacher, one was a private school teacher, but we're going through and showing I thought I was gonna be a choir director, but now I'm teaching choir and band. I thought I was gonna be a band director, and now I'm teaching band and choir, because especially in smaller schools, that's what's happening. And for them to go in and see the mentoring program is something that can really help them because they've already graduated. Their license says they can teach music K-12. But do they have the expertise to teach music K-12? Some do, some not, you know? And
Right.
so that's the thing that we have the power to with the way the mentoring program is set up. We had a band director last year who had taught for 25 years and now was teaching band and general music. So she got a general music mentor. You know? It just happened to be Michelle Swanson from UNI, like the perfect general music mentor, but Michelle said, "I will help this teacher," you know? And so it's one of those things, it's how the grant is set up, a beginning teacher is someone who's teaching that area for the first time. And so the thing that's great about this, it's really responsive to the needs of the teacher because I was just talking to a teacher, last week and said, I'm the high school choir director. The band director's leaving. I think I'm going to have to do high school band next year. And I'm going, okay. And luckily I knew the student said, okay, we can do this. Here's, and we'll get them set up. So in fact, I had an email this morning from a school district, and they said, we have someone that is currently teaching math and they want to be a choir director. They've decided they want to be a choir director now. They are X amount of credit short of getting their music certification. What do they need to do? And can they get a mentor? I'm going, yes, here's the person you need to contact here to get the right answer. And even though they've taught 15 or 20 years, if they decide to become a choir director, they get the mentoring. See, so that's the thing I like about it. It's very responsive to the needs of the teacher.
First of all, when you go speak at these out of state conferences, they need to give you more than 10 minutes.
It was so fun.
That's
Yeah,
my first comment.
no, it was. We got one. It was, and we're going through. And the thing that was so funny was I was the fourth speaker. We had 45, I was like 50 minutes, and I was the fourth one. I literally thought I was gonna get 2 minutes, because you know how that goes. We
Yeah.
had but it was awesome. Every speaker was awesome, and everybody followed, and so I just talked really fast for 10 minutes and got everything in, but it wa but the thing is, since, being in it from the very beginning, you really see, you know, it's so much fun to watch the growth, but also see the impact it makes. Like we had the beginning teachers we had in Des Moines in January literally tell the legislator, if I did not have this mentor, I would not have made it through my first year of teaching.
And that's what I was going to ask you as you were talking. I was going to ask you, what is the feedback from the teachers been like, the mentees? Because that's
Yeah,
so important. That really tells you this is valuable. This is
right.
important. You've helped me.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that's the most powerful. The number of times they said, "If I didn't have this, I wouldn't have made it." I mean, we literally have teachers giving them lesson plans, just saying, "I'm teaching." I mean, I had one that went in and he ended up having to teach a music appreciation course. He found out 2 days before he was a first-year teacher. He was the band director starting and then found out he had to teach music appreciation 2 days before class started. And he's going, you're going, "What do I do?" Run! No, I'm just no.
Yeah.
So no, but really, you run to your mentor and you just go, and that's the thing is, and that's really quick because you can go through because with the connections that we have, because each of the organizations has a mentor chair. So, for example, like for Julie Schneiders does the Iowa Choral Directors, and Michelle Swanson was helping with Iowa Music Educators. So, as a music teacher, if you go in and say, "We found out there's a band director here that's got to teach general music or whatever," it's one quick email, and I say, "All right, we need someone in that area that has expertise in this area." I had just had a meeting a couple days ago, and that was a question that people from Idaho had was matching up the teachers. It's just going in. How do you do it? And I said, well, you try to get people from the same area, but also it's more to me. The thing that's more important is that you got to have if it's a middle school teacher, you got to have someone who's taught middle school. If it's an elementary teacher, you got to have someone who's taught elementary because that's a specific skill as well.
Right, right. You have to have that. I know with like AOSA, the ORF organization, we have a mentor program that I was part of for a short time. And that was our challenge was we're not all in Iowa. So sometimes the people that matched would be somebody on the East Coast and somebody on the West Coast. Well, the challenge was just trying to figure out time schedules to get together. Where in Iowa, at least we have proximity, so that helps.
Yeah, and it's like I said, the addition of doing virtual mentoring has been a game changer.
Yeah.
I've done Zoom meetings at 9:30 at night. They just said, "Leon, I need," and I know a lot of other people do it as well. It's just one of those things where it's helping get through those first 2 years so they realize they're not alone. Secondly, it's someone from the outside looking in, because you see it differently. Uh, and I think the thing is, what I always tell my mentees is you really get to design what you want. It's not evaluative at all. It's like, okay, what do you see, or what I just need some help. And so, yeah, that's the thing I like about it, and it's very close to the ground. And we can move quickly. And the other thing that is super, super important is it's a program of the Iowa Department of Education. Because the Alliance, we have a contract as a vendor through the Iowa Department of Education. So we sign contracts with the Iowa Department of Education every year to provide this service to Iowa schools, which I see as super, super important because it gives us immediate credibility with a local school district that this is a program of the Department of Education. The thing that is very unique when I talk to other states, to me, it's the collaboration between your legislature, your Department of Education, and your professional arts education organizations. It's the three people that really do need to be involved. And so that I think is super, super important, but also a really unique thing about this program.
Well, and I was so impressed with because this was the first year I've ever come to the advocacy day down at the Capitol. And I'm so glad West Music thought it was important because they immediately said, no, we always send a few people down
Yes.
and you should go. And it was just a great day because you are delightfully surprised by these legislatures
Yeah.
that said, I totally support fine arts. What can I do? I mean,
Right.
I you don't even have to sell it to me. I mean, I'm sold.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that we found because this was our 10th one. I guess the COVID years we kind of had to just do things virtually, and again, a quick shout out to West Music. Thank you for being the sponsor this year. That was awesome. But also the thing is, once you come in, and that's the thing with the Advocacy Day, is you come in with a consistent message every year. You come in with a positive message. This is what arts education does for your students. This is what it does for your school. This is what it does for your community. Now we have specific asks, of course, every year. Uh, we did get the fine arts consultant position in Iowa Code, which is huge. Uh, that we got one of our first years. I think we got a legislative win. I think either our first advocacy day we had, but at that time they were reducing the fine arts consultant position at the Department of Education. And so right now we have it in Iowa Code that it has to at least be a half-time position, which is a huge win because there's only two positions that are in Iowa Code. It's talented and gifted in fine arts. So
Wow.
that was a big win. But I think the important thing we needed to do is, again, like this year we targeted new legislators, and last year we targeted new legislators. Uh, yeah, because of COVID, we didn't have that in person contact, and you can send all the emails you want, but like you said, getting to spend that 5 minutes with a legislator, hand them a packet of information, and just kind of tell your story for those 5 minutes is so impactful because it builds that relationship. And the minute they see, oh, Iowa Alliance for Arts Education, oh yeah, I remember them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it's always a fun day, especially when you have people do it for the first time.
That was me.
Yeah, you know, I remember the first time I did it, I was scared to death and I was awful, but you just get better. You just get better.
Well, and I thought it was really smart, as you said earlier in the day, that you had undergraduates and some high school students involved too, because they're telling their story, their experience of their fine arts classes, and they're doing it right now.
Yeah,
And to have those voices there, I thought that was really impactful. I was really impressed with that.
yeah. I tell them because I just say they are the most effective advocates, and what I have to learn is to shut my mouth and let them. It's like yeah, because and that's what I tell them. You just tell your story because you're living it. And the same thing like with the mentor program. I said, I will do the boring stuff. I will say, here are the facts. You tell your story and it works. It works every time because it's so impactful.
It sounds like the mentorship program really is making a big difference because that is a huge issue currently in our country is losing teachers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm part of a group right now, and that's the whole focus of it. It's like Lynn Tuttle, who is the president of the American String Teachers Organizations. They also have people from Music for All, and there's also college people. It's every state set up a little bit differently. So I also work with the Arts Education Partnership, which is a nationwide organization that does advocacy and informational work for arts education. So I've got connected with them, and now I'm connected with another mentor group there, and just learning what other states are doing. And then we'll kind of talk about here's what we're doing in Iowa. Here's what's worked for us. Now that may not work in your state, but here's what we've learned. And then also I learned from them going, oh, I never thought of that. That's something we could add. So again, it's that sharing of ideas that's so important.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear that are these similar type programs going on in other states because that's
Yeah.
really important. I mean,
Yeah.
all across everywhere.
Yeah.
So, what would you say, as kind of a final question here, what would you say to arts educators to encourage membership in the Alliance?
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of no, I get it. I get it because it's one of those things, even though your professional organizations are members, our strength comes from the individual membership, you know? Going through and I think the one thing that the Alliance can do is it's like we had talked about just in the last hour, it's being able to speak with this unified voice and being able to do things that you individually cannot do. And that your individual membership, that $35 membership to be an individual member is really what makes all this possible. Because the fact that that individual membership helps it make it possible. Like we are a partner at the Arts Education Summit. We have connections with the Department of Education. We have connections with the Iowa Arts Council. We have connections with the School Board Association, the School Administrators of Iowa. we can provide immediate assistance, like just for advocacy. The number of times the alliance is okay, we have a school board meeting coming up. They're going to look at cutting this. Can you give us some information? Yep, here we go. Uh, I just did that last week. A teacher was going in. I need some information on arts education. Okay, here's bullet point things. We can send it to you right away. We also have it's the access. What the alliance has is that your membership makes it possible for your concerns to be at the table in Des Moines. At the table when we go, like later this month, we're going to be talking to the Iowa congressional delegation. So our senators and representatives in Washington, D.C. So we're organizing people there. So I think it's a quick way of really being able to work to provide professional development for teachers, to provide mentorship for teachers, and to provide advocacy for teachers. And it helps us support that for something that you obviously don't have time to do because you're the ones in the trenches making the magic happen. So I think it's one of those things where the bang for the buck is incredible because there's some things that just would never have happened if the alliance hadn't been able to be there at the table when decisions are being made.
Well, you've just been amazing, but we always end our podcasts with a quick lightning round of random music questions.
Okay.
And I know you don't know what they are, so
Okay.
that's fine.
All
There are
right.
no wrong answers.
Okay. Good.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Les Miserables.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, since you were a band person, would you prefer a march by John Philip Sousa or Carl King?
Oh. Okay. Oh gosh, that's a hard one. I mean, being an Iowan, but I've gotta go with John
Yeah.
I've gotta go with John Philip Sousa. I've got to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. No, that was given to me by a band friend. She said, "You have to ask him that question." I said, "Well, that's." Now, since you're from the northern part of the state, I have to ask you this question. Do you have a favorite song from The Music Man?
Um, yeah, okay. Let's see what I'm gonna say "Till There Was You."
Oh, that's a good song. I love that song. That's a good answer.
I was gonna say "You Got Trouble," but
Oh, that's a
I
good
don't
one too.
the number of times I've done The Music Man, oh, I don't know how many times I've done it. But no, but just I don't know, I think there's just something about "Till There Was You." I just it's just a nice little ballad. I just think it's a nice song.
It is a good melody.
Yeah.
Okay. Which of these two instruments do you think is too loud in performances? Tubas or timpani?
Okay, your tubas can never be too loud.
Okay.
No, timpani, yeah. You very rarely when I work with bands do I ever say I want less tuba. It's like bass is in a choir, you know? I know, you go in and say, "Okay, no, are you 9 times out of 10, okay, no, I need more bass sound." And when we talk
More
about
bass, yes.
we need more bass, we gotta talk about how a band's gonna listen, okay?
Well, it doesn't carry as much as the higher pitches. They just kind of pierce through where the.
Exactly right.
Okay, then your last one is just a favorite in your lifetime musical memory.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's
You've
the
done so
one
many things.
yeah. No, I'm gonna say it was when I was a freshman in high school. And like I said, I never played in a band. I never played in a band, and I remember where I was sitting. I remember the piece of music. We were playing the William Byrd Suite, which is like a classic for band, and I remember the band played a crescendo, and we did it just right, and I got goosebumps. I remember it. I remember where I was sitting, and I was 14 years old, a farm boy, probably with manure on my shoes, but seriously, I remembered where I was sitting and the band played crescendo and I got goosebumps, And I thought, this has not happened in any other class in the school. And I remember I was 14. I said, I'm going to be a band director. It was done. And so it was just, then it was singular. I know I'm going to be a music major and I'm going to do this. And yeah, so I think I probably have, I mean, I've had like a million since then,
Of
but that
course.
one I think is probably the most important because it just shaped the whole rest of your life.
That's a good memory.
Yeah. In fact, the
Yeah,
thing
this
is,
is why I enjoy these podcasts because I get to hear these things and I find out more about people. It's so great.
yeah. In fact, I did an honor band. Okay, I went to Turkey Valley to high school, which is in Jackson
Oh,
Junction.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally in the middle of a cornfield.
Yep.
And I remember I got to work with their band and I did an honor band there. And it was so cool when I worked with the band is to walk in the band room and say, and tell them the story. I say, no, I was sitting right there because I remember it, you know? I say, that is why I am here today because I sat here and that band played a crescendo, you know? So,
I've always had a second generation connection to Turkey Valley because my cooperating teacher and colleague, Carolyn Bowman from
yes,
Waverly, she started at Turkey Valley. So
yes, she did.
we always had this Turkey Valley. I heard about Turkey Valley all the time.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I've
yeah.
never yet been there, but I know a lot.
Well, you should, yeah, it's no, it was a great place to go. I had really good music teachers. I was the accompanist for the choir, so I did that, and obviously played trumpet in the band. So yeah, it was fun.
Well, this has been an amazing conversation. So I just want to thank you, Leon, for joining us and thank everybody for listening or if you're watching. But this has been our Play Now, Play for Life podcast with Aaron. And if you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing. You can leave a rating and a review. And Leon, do you want to tell us the website address or where we can find the Alliance?
Information about the Alliance, about how to join the Alliance is on our website. It's Iowa Alliance, and then the number 4, Arts Ed. So Iowa Alliance 4, number 4, artsed.org.
Perfect. And you can find us at westmusic.com/play now, play for life. And we're also on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. And you can find those links in the description. So Play Now, Play for Life is a podcast by West Music.